Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to the Dragon Ball Super Review. This time reviewing episode 102. Universe 2 decides to step into the fray in a big way. Brienne de Chateau, along with her teammates Sanka and Sue, are magical girl inspired, including having an overly long transformation sequence that can actually be interrupted by Android 17 attacking them mid-transformation. Sanka tries to attack 17 after they transform for ruining the moment, but gets quickly eliminated once he starts fighting seriously. And this makes Brienne very, very angry. So, what did I like about this episode? Well, first of all, okay, Universe 2 have become so entertaining. I mean, the fact is, a lot of these universes kind of seem like almost like sort of hodgepodge of random fighters from in kind of almost like completely different themes and completely different kind of gimmicks, and that sort of kind of makes sense, and in fact that's kind of what Team Universe 7 are in the first place. But with Universe 2, at the very least, even if all the fighters are different, they kind of like gave them all this sort of like kind of gimmick, this sort of thing that really makes them kind of stand out, that they are, Universe 2 are essentially kind of like shoujo themed, in that, you know, they're all into kind of like love and friendship and caring for one another and camaraderie. But of course this is Dragon Ball Super and it's not exactly a shoujo, so the way they handle it is well, kind of the exact way they handle the Ginyu Force and the Pride Troopers, in that it is kind of essentially sort of a parody. It's like basically like, yeah, characters from a different genre being sort of inserted into Dragon Ball, and then yes, the characters in Dragon Ball kind of thinking like, this sounds absolutely ridiculous. It's like, yeah, it kind of literally does feel like you guys have walked in from a completely different show into this random Dragon Ball Super arc, but that's what makes it really funny. And not to mention, it doesn't just like reduce Universe 2 to the category of like gimmick fighter, gimmick universe, because like they still kind of have a whole bunch of different characters with different techniques, and like the magical girls with the transformation sequence, there's only 3 out of the 10 of them, so it's like it's memorable. Universe 2 on their own have become memorable without it kind of just feeling like they're just a single like one-note gimmick. So I do enjoy that. And this whole idea of sort of characters almost feeling like they come from like different genres being placed into this one arc together, it all really comes to a head in that one big joke where Android 17 attacks the magical girls in the middle of their transformation sequence and kind of knocks them out of their stock footage. It is just a joke that is so good on so many different levels, and it just keeps paying off. Because I mean, first of all, like, probably everyone who has watched a magical girl show at one point has probably asked themselves, why don't the villains ever attack the magical girls while they're transforming? Because the transformation sequences often take a very long time. And well, obviously it's kind of like one of those sort of like suspension of disbelief things in the actual magical girl shows, or you just have to assume that it's happening instantaneously. But here it's like, because they're not in a magical girl show, because they're in Dragon Ball, they're basically allowed to go and pretty much hang a giant lampshade on that whole idea without it kind of just seeming like it kind of comes out of nowhere. And then the joke just keeps getting better and keeps getting even more and more kind of meta. Because then you have Toppo coming over, Toppo from the Universe 11, from the Pride Troopers, from essentially the Super Sentai / Tokusatsu universe, and being like, no, listen, I totally understand what these girls are doing, because, I mean, hey, here in my universe, I understand it. Here back in Tokusatsu universe, I understand the appeal of having long transformation sequences. I understand the appeal of, like, making it look like a big deal. And the third final kind of punchline is that even Goku kind of appreciates the idea of having a long transformation sequence. Because, hey, even in Dragon Ball, there have been cases where characters kind of just sit there and wait for their opponent to transform because they know it's going to give them a better fight. It's like a multi-layered joke, and the more you think about it, the better it is, and it's just hilarious, and I am so glad they did it. Honestly, if Universe 2 was basically only here just so they could make that joke, I wouldn't even really be that disappointed, because it's a good joke and it makes sense as to why it would happen here and now in this series with these specific characters at this specific moment. And if I'm going to go and mention like fun fan service moments that I really like in this episode, so Android 17 basically being so strong and so pragmatic that he basically just broke the genre. That is kind of completely ridiculous and completely amazing, and I think he got a lot of fans this episode. As for what I didn't like about this episode, well, to be honest, it was only really one thing, and that was just like, I kind of wish that there was more. Or at least more of the kind of magical girl parody kind of stuff. In all honesty, there was only really like one proper joke, and like that joke was good, but it's like after that, honestly, most of the kind of fighting really kind of went back into sort of normal fighting fare. Besides maybe that one point where one of the girls and one of the other contestants of Universe 2 kind of have this sort of like big emotional moment when they save each other. Besides that, the parody kind of almost loses its steam a little bit. You know, it's less like these characters are literal warriors of love, and it's more just like they just talk about how they are warriors of love, but really basically they're just like everyone else in Dragon Ball Super. There's only one like kind of magical girl inspired like big sort of stock footage attack, and after that it pretty much just goes back to the usual sort of Dragon Ball punching and energy blast fare. Like maybe this is just my bias being exposed. I'm only really disappointed because it just means my knowledge of all the Pretty Cure seasons is not going to come and help me understand things in Dragon Ball Super. But I still personally think that like magical girls in Dragon Ball is like basically such a good joke, it can last for a while, and I do hope they do more with it. Also, like I feel like Universe 2 was supposed to kind of have this joke, or at least the magical girls were supposed to have this joke where it's just like when they transform, they get less pretty. I feel like it's kind of undermined by sort of their character designs. I mean, Sanka and Sue, when they transform, they don't necessarily really look that ugly, and while Brienne kind of looks a little bit unappealing that she's like kind of all fat now, the fact is she's kind of got so much enthusiasm and energy that for me it kind of meant I didn't really pay much attention to her character design. It didn't really make me feel that disgusted at all because she was just kind of having so much fun with fighting everyone. I don't know, like if that was supposed to be the main draw for these characters and the main joke for these characters, I feel like they almost took them kind of too seriously as they were transformed to make me really sort of think that that was kind of the joke. So, as for next episode, well, up until this point, Team Resurrection F had been pretty comfortable just kind of sitting there in their own little circle, but as of the event of this episode, they're all kind of separated on their own, and that means that we're going to see some of them actually fight. As in, next episode, it looks like we're going to see Gohan and maybe also Piccolo as well. Gohan and Piccolo fighting against the remaining members of Universe 10. And some stuff around this episode have honestly been making me very, very intrigued. Because it seems like this is the episode where the characters in particular start really thinking about the implications of the fact that even if they do necessarily end up like winning this tournament and they end up fighting these guys, basically, by eliminating these characters, they are essentially responsible for seeing those universes get erased. So they're basically going to be responsible for the deaths of basically millions and billions of people. If anyone was going to ever have to realize this, I am very glad it is Gohan. Because I feel like Gohan is one of the few characters in Universe 7 where his personality really kind of works and can really go and help you actually like kind of explore sort of like moral complexities. If we're going to explore moral complexities in this tournament, we're going to have to explore it next episode, and we're going to have to do it with Gohan. So I really hope next episode is like at least like written competently, because this is actually some surprisingly heavy stuff that they could get into, and I'm really interested. And I mean, I'm also interested because it's a Gohan episode, but like also because like there's a lot of like really kind of interesting implications about what they might bring up. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 102. Okay, fine, Super. Alright, I get it. You pandered to me this time and I'm happy about it. Alright, I am happy about you pandering to me. This is the one good thing about the Tournament of Power. It is essentially so huge, and there are so many characters that even if there was one point that you kind of thought was a little bit weak, basically we kind of just get to the point, like next week we have a whole new adventure with these other new characters. Even though it's still kind of part of the Tournament of Power, it's just like, you know, at this point we've kind of moved on from Kale and Cauliflower for a while. Now we're going to go and talk about, you know, Universe 2, and after that we might talk about Universe 10, and, you know, Universe 3, I guess, and so on and so forth, and it honestly makes a really engaging experience. Even though we've kind of seen all these rosters of these characters, we roughly kind of know what they all look like, it still feels like we're never really sure what's going to lie around the corner. Now you've somehow made a tournament arc kind of feel like a big massive adventure where like every episode we get something new and exciting and different, and it's been really fun to watch. The only issue might be because at this point it hasn't really felt like most of the Universe 7 characters have been particularly challenged yet, but I am still enjoying the fact that all of these characters just feel so fresh and unique and different. And honestly, a lot of these characters are stuff that Dragon Ball's never really done in terms of antagonists in general. But with that point, all of the Universe 7 fighters are kind of fighting independently. A lot of the kind of fodder universes seem like they're going to be dropping out soon, and it seems like some of the stronger fighters are really coming out to play. So that will be fun. Whenever Goku finds Jiren, obviously, that will be fun. And whenever the other characters get their big spotlight moments, that will be fun. I mean, after all, there is still so much more we need to do, and the tournament is only like 9 minutes has passed already, so there's still a long way to go, and I'm not really disappointed by it because there's still so much that I've been kind of been hinting to, and things that we still need to see, and things that I do still want to see. And I really do want to see it. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye guys!